Ants are one of the smallest creatures on Earth. But if you take a few moments to go beyond their nature, you might discover that they are also the most amazing creatures that has been made in the world. And they have this distinct way of living to survive as a colony. Welcome to Animals Wow TV. If you're interested in knowing more about this intriguing insect, keep on watching. You'll discover many fascinating facts on why they keep food in their body in a unique way for their survival of their colony. To start off, we're going to know what a honeypot ant is. Most of you have known this ant, and most of you probably not. Honeypot ants can be found in a variety of locations around the world. The majority of them are found in dry climates, like Mexico, South Africa, and Australia. They spend much of their time within their nest due to their huge size. This is because their bodies are swollen and making it difficult for them to walk. Because honeypot ants spend so much time inside their nest, they are usually protected from predators, allowing them to survive for up to 8 years. You'll need to search attentively for a big crater-like mound on the ground to find a honeypot nest. Dig carefully into the top of it. Once you've done that, you'll soon find yourself in thin vertical passageways. Dig a little deeper after you've found these. After a while, you'll come across their gigantic chamber, which is brimming with honeypot ants. You can scoop some crawling around on the ground, or pluck some from the top of the chamber's roof with your hand. Ants who have done the same thing for a long period. In the animal kingdom, there are no odd or pointless jobs. To save the warrior's energy, the larger marauder ants act as a bus for the lesser ones, transporting them to the battlefield. Honey ants like these have large, inflated bellies that act as a living larders for their entire colony. Replete honey ants, who are too huge to travel, cling to the ceilings of nests dug deep into the chilly earth. These ants are drained during the dry season to provide food for the rest of the colony. Honey ants can be found all over the world in deserts and other arid areas. This species is native to Mexico and the southern United States. Other honey ant species can be found throughout southern Africa and all over Australia. Only a few honey ants develop into living larders. They are honey ants who belong to the worker caste. Soldiers protect the colony from predators. Princesses and drones mate to produce new colonies. And the queen, usually the mother of all other ants in the colony. Other worker ants feed and replenish during the rainy season, when food is abundant. The delicious nectar collected from desert flowers is the major source of nourishment for honey ants. Workers will occasionally feed repletes liquids from insects killed by the colony to the colony's workers. For example, body fat from wasps or other ants. These beverages are given to repletes drop by drop, mouth to mouth. Nutrients become scarcer during a drought or dry season. Fewer flowers bloom, and the colony attracts fewer insects. Honeybees go to their live larders, which have grown to the size of grapes. A worker ant will stroke a replete's antenna when the colony requires nutrient-rich liquids. This tells the stomach that it's time to regurgitate the liquid. A colony member can either eat the liquid or carry it to another colony member. Honeypot ants, on the other hand, serve as pantry ants. These ants were first described in the late 1800s, but scientists didn't have enough time to adequately investigate them. Oh, you know how it is when you come upon something very interesting. It turns out that there isn't enough knowledge on the subject. Something was discovered by the researchers. Honeypot ants are members of multiple genera, and their job is to store food for the entire colony. Future supply keepers are reportedly taught from a young age to be acclimated to a big amount of food. It's strange to think of any species serving as a walking pantry for its fellow beings. But honey ants do exactly that. The size of the honeypot can be equivalent to a grape or cherry. Although it is generally a translucent amber tint, their appearance is highly different because of the greatly inflated tummy. Honey ants come in a variety of sizes depending on the genes. Not every ant in a colony will have a bloated belly. Males typically serve a much more minimal role, acting to mate with the queen and then quietly and rapidly collecting food. Female workers of a certain size usually do the food harvesting and collecting, while smaller females take care of the ant queen, who rules each society. And males typically serve a much more minimal role, acting to mate with the queen, and then quietly and rapidly collecting food. It's not like taking a summer class or going to a tutorial to get a passing grade. It's a lot more complicated than that, and it's not something you would expect. If the colony loses all of its live pantry, one must adapt. As a result, regular worker ants can also turn into honeypot ants. This will take a few weeks or months, and the transformation will not come overnight. The honeypot ants, after all, are gigantic. How could ants have created something so massive? Actually, it's fairly reasonable. They apparently had to deal with their drought one day. As a result, they develop a method of food specialization to aid them in surviving the drought. So what exactly is going on within these bloated ants? It's not truly honey, despite the name. Simple sugars, such as plant nectar and AP, as well as secretions, make up the fluids. Worker ants collect these, spread them out, and feed them to the pantries until they expand to the size of grapes. Honey barrels can be over 0.4 inches long and weigh about a gram. That's a lot when the weight of ordinary ants is measured in milligrams. Honeypot ants can't move for the majority of their lives, thus they live underground. What happens if a colony runs out of food? To put it another way, how do you believe they eat to stay alive? When the colony runs out of food, the worker ant goes up to one of the honeypot ants and strokes its antenna, following which it regurgitates some of the nutritious fluids contained inside. What about the liquid's properties? It's possible that the taste and consistency vary depending on the colony. Some ants, for example, prefer sweet foods, while others prefer salty foods. If there are any changes in taste, they appear to be minor. Essentially, all the ants who use the barrels eat the same thing. True honey ants, on the other hand, have a smaller range and are more likely to be found in arid environments. False honey ants appear to thrive at cooler temperatures, and they are unable to live. Because they contain little amounts of honey, these ants have been a target for human populations on occasion. Aboriginal cultures in Australia and the surrounding continent, as well as groups in Northern America and Mexico, have been known to dig up the nests, fast suck the honey from the full-bellied ants, then press the ants to extract their honey. Now, you're probably wondering if it tastes of honey, right? Well, people would not be people if they didn't try to put these strange insects in their mouths. Those that had the opportunity to sample a few of the living pantries describe them as having a sweetish flavor, while some contend that the ants are sweet and sour at the same time. Others argue that they are sweet and sour to be preferred. Honeypot ants, on the other hand, are still regarded as a delicacy this month. At least once in your life, you are supposed to try. It's also healthy, and unusual food is rarely as pleasurable as this. However, when the rest of the world discovered how tasty honeypot ants are, the Australian Aborigines made hunting for them into a tradition. When they first arrived in the dry parts of Australia, they most likely experimented with honeypot ants. In such conditions, any meal will suffice, and the natives relied on ants as a source of sugar and other nutrients. Why not? True, people don't bother stroking antennae and instead devour complete insects. Of course, the response is likely to be dissatisfied. They bury their supplies as deep as possible to prevent hungry humans from plundering them. To keep the contents of the barrels from decaying while exposed to the heat, honeypot ants are buried quite deep, sometimes 5.2 feet into the ground, and sometimes even deeper. However, no such anthills were discovered. Ants are most likely digging so deep to make natural refrigerators. After all, the lower the barrels are, the longer the food will last, and the less likely it will be stolen. When you think about it, honeypot ants' work isn't exactly spectacular, because they do nothing, simply nothing. They simply sit in the dark, eat, wait, and then repeat. That's how it works for them, and it's how they survive. Many ants, on the other hand, can alter their expertise and work their way up the career ladder by first working as nurses or nannies and tending to the queen and the larva. The garbage cleaners are the next step. The ants eventually evolve into gatherers, and it's at this point that the big bucks start pouring in. So if you see these small guys drawing, tagging, crumbs, leaves, and some food, you should realize that in the world of ants, they are effectively top administrators. However, some occupations are passed down among insects as well. For example, if the father was a simple cleaner ant, the son would also be a cleaner ant. They don't have a choice. They don't have the freedom to choose. Because in their kingdom, it's difficult to leave a profession that assures the survival of a colony. There you have it. What do you think of this incredible ant survival strategy to save its colony? Any interesting thoughts about it? Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to click the like button and to subscribe to our channel. And while you're here, check out our video on how baboons made into a lunch by a lion.